All right. So in this one, I'm going to be setting up a ship selection screen that the player will be able to use to swap between ships. And one thing that I've done some pre-work. So I'll just hit play real quick so you can see where we're at. So I have this main menu level, and when I press play, I have the name of my game here. I've got some buttons on the side: start game, quick game. We've already set up those in the past. And then we have the ship select screen. So when we go there, there's a couple arrows and a back button, which will go back to here. Quit game, of course, will quit the game. Start game will start the level. So we want to go ahead and get this all set up. So I have my level here. There's not much in here. There is one thing I want to note. There's a target point. This is where we're going to be spawning the ships into the level. I've created a menu game mode here. Right now, all that's on here is we're just creating that widget and adding it to the viewport. My main menu has the name of the game, those buttons. And then I created a second widget called Ship Select, which is the left and right buttons and this back button. And in main menu, when we click Ship Select, all we're doing is showing that Ship Select widget and hiding the other two widgets. Then there's a hide Ship Select, which hides the Ship Select widget and shows the other two widgets. So pretty straightforward. Again, all this is stuff we've probably done before in this course, so nothing revolutionary here, nothing new. I've also set up 3 ships that we're going to be able to select from. Ship 001, which these are all going to be children of BP player ships, so everything we've done so far on there. This one looks like the one we've been using so far. I've also set up ship 2, which is this red looking ship, and then ship 3, which is this blue ship. So 3 very visually different ships. I wanted the ability to swap between them in the game for the player, and then we could set these each up to act a little bit differently. Maybe each one, one of them's a little bit faster but has less armor, one's kind of in the middle, and then maybe one's more of like a tanky type ship that can take a more of a beating, but doesn't move as fast or something. I don't know. Also, another thing is you could set up these weapon arrays at different points. So like this one, they're a little bit wider apart, whereas on this one, they're a little bit closer. So when we use this ship, both of those weapons are going to be spawned a little bit closer. So maybe in your game, you want some levels where there's really tight, areas you have to shoot through, and this ship would be a better ship for that. So a lot of variability because of the weak thing we've already done is setting up our game using good object-oriented principles. So yeah, a lot of flexibility in this game to do what you want. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is in my menu game mode, after we pull this widget up, I actually want to spawn a ship into my level. And like right now you can see I've set up like a spotlight that's going to be shining on that location. So let's go ahead and let's set up a new spawn ship function, and it's going to have a class input. Looks like I already did this. So let's just do get actor of class. This is going to be that target point. And then on here, we'll do spawn actor from class. And for this target point, we want to get transform. We'll pass that in. And then we'll pass this in. I'm doing this kind of for the first time. I already tried recording this once and kind of got a little bit sidetracked. So decided to start fresh. So there may be some things in some of these classes that are like already there because I forgot to delete everything. So I'll try to just catch those as they come up. But and then we want to call this. So let's call this. And I actually want this to be a player ship, not just a regular actor. A little bit more restriction. And for now, let's just pick ship 1. So now we're spawning that ship in. And when we go to the select ship, I want to be able to use these arrows to cycle through the ships. So for this, we could do all this through the game mode. The issue with that is that once we go to play our game, we're gonna have to go to a new level and we're gonna have to load a different game mode. So how do we get that information from the game mode from this level to the next level? And for that, we're gonna be creating a game instance class, which is actually the point of lesson 9, which is what I'm recording for right now, week 6, lesson 9. So let's go into our blueprints folder and we'll just right click and we will create a new blueprints class, and we need to go to here, all classes, and we'll type game instance, and we'll call this BP game instance. And remember, only one game instance is ever can be in your game. This is one instance per client. So if you have a multiplayer game, everyone has their own game instance. And every time you launch the game, you create a new instance, and this can never be changed once the game has been launched. So it's a persistent class. As long as the game is running, that's the game instance. So because we're only ever going to have one, we don't need to call anything special. It could just be game instance. All right. One thing you need to do to get the game to use this instance is go to project settings, and then under maps and modes, we're just going to swap this to BP game instance, and now our game will know that when it launches to use the class we just created and not the default one. So let's open this up. So I want to create a couple variables in here, but for now we'll just do 2. What we want to do is when we select a ship, we want that to be stored in the game instance class, and that way when we load whatever level we're in, that will pass in whatever class we selected into the other game mode and then spawn that ship. So we'll have to set up that as well. But we also want to keep a list of all of the available ships, and we can use an array for that. So let's set up both those variables right now. So I'm going to call the first one selected ship, and this is going to be BP player ship. And as long as all of your ships are children of this BP player ship that we created, those should all work. And just we'll just leave it as none for now. Now let's create another variable, and this is going to be called ships array. And this is going to be BP player ship as well, but we want this to be an array. And then in here, we can add an array element for each of those ships that we set up. So I set up 3. You don't have to set up 3. I just thought 3 was a good number to kind of see that we're cycling through them. You could set up 5 or 20 if you want. But we'll just start with these 3 for now, just so you can get the idea of what we're doing. And so now that we have those, I think we have everything now that we need to be able to set up this functionality for our game. So we have this ship select screen, and in here, let's do this widget, there's a left button and a right button. And I've already set up the on-clicked events for that. We'll do the right one first because it's slightly easier. I mean, they're the same, but as we're kind of going through the logic, you'll see why I do this one first. So one thing that I'm going to want, is I'm going to be using this game instance a lot. So up here, when we create this, let's just get a reference to that. So we can do cast to game instance. We'll cast to our BP game instance, and then here we can use get game instance. And this getter will work. It's always just going to get whatever the current game instance is, which we've already set up for our game, and we'll just cast it, make sure that it's the right one, and then from here we can have access to those functions. But I just want to promote this to a variable, and I'll write this as game instance. And that way we can get a reference to this to do the various functions. But like right now, we could just get access to that ships array if we needed to, which we're going to do down here. So let's do that. Let's get this ships array. Awesome. And then we'll do a for each loop, because we want to essentially what we're going to be doing is cycling through this array to get the next one. And the reason we start with write is because it's a little bit easier to write the logic for this there. They're essentially the opposite logic, but we'll just do it this way to start. We're going to need one other variable, and I'll put this one in the ship select, but this is going to be an integer, and this I'll call current index, because we want to be able to track what our current index is, and then we can compare it to whatever this index is in our array. So it should start on 0, which we want to, yeah, that's what we want. All right. So I'm going to kind of do this piece by piece, and you'll see why as we're building this, but I could just build it all and it would work because I've done this before and I know how to do it. But you don't, I think, learn as much as you would learn from watching me kind of do something, see the problem that it creates, solve that problem, and kind of go through them step by step that way. Let's just save all. Thank you, friendly reminder. So yeah, you're going to see as we build this, it's going to work, but there's going to be a problem. We'll solve that problem. It's going to work again. There'll be a new problem. We'll solve that problem. We'll just kind of go through them, but I want you to kind of see the logic of, I think that's the best way to see the logic of why we're doing things the way we do. So what we want to do is we want to get whatever our current index is, and when we click the right one, we want to get the next ship in the array. So what I'll do is I'll do +1. And then we can compare this. Nope. We can compare these two numbers. So if the index is equal to the current index +1, we want to get that ship. And we can set selected ship as this one. And then once we set that, so it's basically what we're going to do is we're going to take whatever our current index is, which will be 0 to start. So it's going to find that we're currently on the first ship in the array, the first index. We're going to add 1 to get the next one. Just spoiler, when we do the left one, we're going to -1 to get the one before. And we'll set that as the selected ship in our ships array. And then I want to spawn that new ship, and we already set that up in this function. So we can do, actually, let's just set the game mode as a variable too, since we're going to be using it. I guess we don't have to set it as a variable. Let's just do it the dirty way, and then we can clean it up later. Game mode, and then here we want to spawn ship, and we can pass in selected ship. Now this is kind of working, but I'll show you what the problem is right now. It's not actually doing anything, and it's because this ship is still there. We got to get rid of this one and then spawn a new one in its place. So there's a few different ways we can do this. I think on the ship we already have a function that can do this. When the ship is destroyed, right? Death processing, player ship. But it needs the player camera. But it doesn't. But we are going to get a null if we do this. So we can destroy, because we also want to destroy all the weapons, which is one of the reasons I want to use this function. So I guess what we can do to be able to still use this is we can just convert this to a validated get. Do it like that. So if there is a camera, it'll destroy it. It'll pass this into the ship camera, which will start that functionality. But if there's not, which there won't be in this case, because we're not using that actor for this scene, then we'll go to all the active weapons on this ship. We'll destroy them, and then we'll destroy ourselves. So we could do this. So player ship has that. Get actor of class player ship. There should only be one, hopefully. And then, what was that called? Death processing. This might not work, but we'll try it. See what happens, right? Oh, it worked. All right, so now it works. We can go again. Oh, yeah, it only works once. Why? Why does it only work once? I'll show you again. So we're on ship 0. We go here. Now we're on ship 1, or ship 1 and then ship 2, but 0 and 1 in the array. When we click it again, it doesn't work. It's because we never set the current index to the next number. So we can just get, and then increment. Let's see if this works. Should be able to go to ship 3 now. But then when we click it, we want to go back to the first ship. And this won't work because we're at the end of the array. There's nothing else in the array, right? So actually what we need to do is we need to go back to the first one in this case. We need to go we need to cycle back to ship 0. So I think the best way to do this is just to put another branch here, and let's get this, get last index equal and this actually now should be the false pin because it's not the last ship. So if it is the last ship, then we want to set the current ship to ship 0. So we can copy this. This here is equal to 0. Then let's see if this works. It's still oh. All right. It should go back to 1. Yep, but then it's broken again, right? Because we're still incrementing down here. So let's do another branch. We can use the same function that we set up. And then we'll just set current index to 0. And this should work. Let's see. Look at that. Fantastic. So I can keep cycling through. Now we need to do the opposite for the other button. But let's just go through it real quick, because I know I went a little bit fast in some areas. We'll just talk through all this logic really quickly, and I'll make it a little bit prettier. Pretty enough. All right. So we click our right button, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a reference to all of the ships in our ships array that's on our game instance that we set up here. We're going to go through that, and the first check we're going to do is see if we're at the last ship. And if we are, then we'll just get whatever the first ship is, and we'll go that one. So that's going to cycle it back to the first ship in the array. But in most cases, other than if you had 2, it's not going to be the ship's array, because if there's 2, it's going to flip flop basically, which we would have done this much simpler. But if it is false, then we will get we'll get our current index, which should be whatever our current the current ship that we're on. We'll add 1, and then we want to get that ship and set it to selected ship. So this whole first part is just finding what the next ship is in the array. The rest of this is going to be, we're going to destroy the ship that's in the level. We're going to spawn a new ship, which will be selected ship because we set it up here. And then we just need to handle the current index so that this all works. Now, I'm sure that there's a more elegant way to do this, There's always a better way, right? Well, maybe not always, but I think this is a pretty solid way to do it. There's a lot of ability for expansion, so it's not dependent upon anything. We could have 3 ships, we could have 100 ships. It's always going to work to cycle through them. And it gives us only one variable that we need as of right now on our game instance, and that's this selected ship. So when we spawn our level, we just have to, when we go to our new level, we just have to spawn that ship in. All right, so let's do the opposite now. Most of this, actually all of this, even these will be, but they're just going to be a little bit different. Let's copy all of that. And then, well, this won't be. We'll still need a lot of this. But we'll have to make some changes. So the first thing is this first branch, right? So instead of are we on the last ship? We want to see if we're on 0. So let's go in here. I guess we could just see if current index is 0. That should work. So if current index is equal to 0, bam. So that's the start. And we want to handle this true branch. This will just be a minus. This will be the last index here. So let's do this. All right. So the first branch is just going to see if we are at 0 already. If we are, then we're going to get the last index. So we're going to wrap back around to the end now, and we're going to set this one to selected ship. And then we will destroy the other ship, spawn selected ship, and then these just need to be swapped. This will be the same. And then this is a decrement. Let's see if this works. Let's go this way. And now let's try to go back to the first ship. And now this one should go to the blue ship. Great. So we're able to cycle through all of our ships. So we have a ship selection screen. All right. The last step that we need to do is that now when we start game, we want this to be the ship, but it's not. So let's do that next. And this we have to do through our regular game mode. And here, let's try to figure out what's going on. I think that's on our camera class, right? Player camera. Spawn ship, player ship. So yeah, this should be pretty simple. Actually, spawn ship. There we go. So we can just do get game instance. We need to cast to BP game instance. Even more room. And then get selected ship. Let's see if this works. We'll try to use the blue ship. And look at that, it works. This one cannot move though. I think it's because so I got this asset pack. It's actually pretty cool. High-res spaceship creator. It wasn't free, just so you know. But it has all these modular ships that were already created, so I didn't even have to do that much work. But I do have to now do some work, because I think the issue is these collisions. So let me just check before I invest a bunch of time into doing this. I got to go through each of these static meshes, turn my collision off. I'm pretty sure this is what's causing the problem though. Oh my God, there's so many of them. Can I just select them all? Oh, thank you. Yeah, if you're watching the course, we're pretty far into it. It starts from really the basics. So if you have some experience, you might even be able to skip the first couple weeks. But I've had some good feedback, so keep developing it. Keep trying to, help people make games. Why are there so many of these? But I discovered, since I'm doing this and it's taking forever, I figure I'll talk a little bit. I discovered that the bottleneck of creating this content, so I've created, I'm in week 6 now. And when I started, I don't think I really understood how much work it was going to be. And on top of that, I got a promotion. So my day job is a lot more intense now. and I just don't think I realized how much work creating a course like this was going to be. And there we go, it works. So I've definitely slowed down a little bit in creating the content, but I realized a huge bottleneck. Now I'll get to the point. Is the amount of time that it takes to edit. So I thought, well, I could just do like a quick down and dirty version for the course, and then do these live streams of actually building the content out. And that way, if people need a little bit more help, they can watch these and they can watch me ramble to the void of the internet. Oh, of course. Hopefully I didn't lose too much. I don't remember the last time I saved. I've noticed lately that Unreal has been a little bit more crash prone. I used to go like days before it crashed, and now it seems like it crashes like once a day. Let's just see what we lost. All right, so that's all broken again. Fun. Oh. Oh, man. I guess I can go back and watch the stream. This is high quality streaming, though. If I wasn't streaming, this is usually when I just close Unreal and go do something else for a little bit so I don't break my computer. All right, let's just finish doing this since this is what's being annoying. It was working though. I have video evidence that it worked. I just have to redo it. I could also like probably do this at the meshes themselves because it's going to the default. It might be a little faster, but I'll just do it this way since I'm already almost done. All right, compile, don't crash, save all. That means this one needs to be done again. This is high quality content. Watching me set all of my meshes to no collision. Don't crash on me again, you jerk. Yeah, one cool thing about YouTube too is if you do a stream on YouTube, it automatically, oh, come on, it automatically posts a video, so I don't have to do anything. I mean, they're unedited, so. But there's a decent amount of people that watched the last one, so where was I? Here. Again, I'm not breaking the internet with my YouTube channel, but there's been enough and actually more interest than I ever thought I would get. So yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a big promotion too. So unfortunately, I have less time to spend on hobbies, especially with life in general. But you know, for me, like game dev was a hobby that I started. I've been doing it for a long time, but never like seriously. But then in COVID, I was like, man, I gotta figure something out so I don't go crazy. And like honestly, game dev was really awesome. I started working on game jams and like meeting a lot of people. Made a few games during the pandemic, and it really just like stuck with me. And I've really enjoyed it. The people I've met. But the thing that really kind of motivated me to start the channel on YouTube was when I first started learning. And I'm not trying to disparage anyone on YouTube, because anyone that's making free content to be consumed, props to them. There's a lot of people out there that I think are passionate, but there just wasn't the quality of learning that I really wanted. It seemed more like, hey, here's how to do this one very specific thing, but not like here's how to make a game, or here's how to like here's all the things that like the core principles that you need to make a game. And that's really what I wanted. And I came across the Game Dev TV courses and took a couple of those. Learned a lot from Stephen Ulibarri's courses. And, I was just like, my thought was it would be really nice if there was some high quality content like this that was free for people. And I had some free time, so I started making my course. And yeah, it just picked up. People seem to like it, so I keep doing it, hoping that I'm helping people. All right, so I have to program this whole dang thing again. There was like a branch. Well, let's start by creating that function. Now what do I do? I know the end result is this. Set. think that was it. Okay, and then, God, deriv class. Oh, that's really awesome that you came here organically. I I will say like one thing about having 600 subs as if it's like some crazy number, which it's not. I understand that, but when it was like 100 people, I could remember like everyone, and like as it's grown, it's harder to keep track of like who I've talked to before, and like I feel really bad because I don't want it to be that way, but unfortunately, it just is what it is. Like it's there's a lot of, you know, it's like 600 people now, and not all of them are active. There's like definitely some that are more active, and I think some that just click sub, but sometimes it's hard for me to remember like if I've talked to someone before. So it's cool that it just kind of pointed you this way. Yeah, I recommend, you know, if you have time, look at some of the content in the course. The first video of the course actually kind of explains what the course is, and then yeah. But again, it's like a beginner course. So if you have some experience, it might not be as useful. Game menu game. Game mode. And then what was that called? Spawn ship. Oh yeah, so you probably know more about. Honestly, you probably know more about game dev than or programming than I do. I've been doing programming for years, but never seriously. So but I work in the engineering field, so I work around a lot of programmers and like in the technology space. So it comes up from time to time. All right, I think that's right. Save. Why is that one going twice though? Oh. Yeah, I think that's one of the things like when you when you first like it's hard to make it practical. One of the things that drew me to game dev was like when you start learning programming, everything is like um, here's how to make a command prompt program. Like it was like super boring and super slow, and like never really felt like I was actually like getting anywhere. I started learning JavaScript and a little bit of C++, but C++ was like even more hard to like comprehend and wrap my head around. But JavaScript, it was cool because at least I was like making something, like making websites, you know, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that stuff. But like it just felt like it took so long to learn. And one thing that really drew me to game dev was like you could make a game in like very quickly, and there's like a very tangible result. And it's fun. It's like something interactive, something you could show people, and you learn a lot about programming principles and like design concepts and design patterns through programming. Like when I started learning about like actually digging into programming and learning about design patterns, it was much easier because it was like, oh, this is like, very applicable to game dev because you could use it in, this application. And I think one of the problems with like going through college is like everything is about like principles and like core, but you're never like learning like the practicality of it until you start like interning or something. So yeah, lots of trial and error too. I think that's one thing that college like helps with is that you you have those core principles, so when you do get to a problem, you already probably have the knowledge to fix it. Whereas if you're self-taught, if you get to a problem and you don't know how to fix it, you're kind of just Googling until you find some random guy that made a post on Stack Overflow like 5 years ago. Don't know why this is going twice on that last one though. Why do when we get, let's so there's only 3. I'm so confused. I did it the exact same way. What am I missing? What am I missing? All right, let's talk through it. That always helps. So if we're on the last one, we want to find the first one. So this part is working, and this part is working until it gets to the end. Let's do this. If you can't figure it out, log it to the console. All right, so that's ship 2, that's ship 3. Why is it ship 3 again? I think, what did I do differently? I think the difference isn't here. I think I know the problem now. So we're checking, so we set it to 3. Wait, so we're on 2, we're not on 2, we set it to 3. Oh. Zero index problem. That should work. All right, cool. Is there a last? That's why. This will also work. I think that's why it worked last time. Yeah. Yeah, I think I know a lot of people that work in the game dev industry, and I don't think anyone actually likes working in the game dev industry. I think people like making games and they're willing to have a crappy job to do that. But I have heard from a lot of people that the industry just sucks the life out of people, and it's really you know, I mean every job is worried about profits and stuff, but I think if you're working for a tech company that has crazy budget, you know, they can throw money at problems, I think. And I think the game industry doesn't have that mindset. So I worked for a robotics company for a long time, and they could do really well. They had like endless budgets for R&D. So everyone was really happy, but the work we were doing wasn't necessarily like interesting. Um, so it's that trade-off. All right, let's do the opposite. All right, I'm saving it. Even if it doesn't work, I don't want to start over. All right, missed something here. All right, if it's 0, then oh, that. That's it. Hopefully. Nope. All right. If it's 0, I mean we get the last array index. Set that to ship. Does it work if it's just this? There's nothing there. being hasty. All right. So if we're on 0, we want to go to the last index instead. This is not working. This part is. This part isn't. Oh. There we go. That's not working now. All right, that should do it. There we go. All right, did it. Save it again. Last step, this one. Oh yeah. Let's try for the red ship. I don't actually know if that one works. Oh yeah. We have a ship select screen. Get those. Why are my missile launchers so small? Oh well. Problem for another day. And now what we could do is we can, like this one, let's set the health at like 2, but the movement speed, where is it? 3,000. And then this one, we'll set the health to like 10, but the movement speed is 500. Super fast. Let's try this one. Slow. that's done. What else was supposed to be done here? All right. I think that's it. It only took me an hour. I was done a while ago, but that stupid crash. So anyway, yeah, that's that. So I'm gonna sign off for a bit, and then try to be back on again a little bit to do the next lesson. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate